Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Voices of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Tina Clark. Today's guest is Craig Meriwether. He is a certified clinical hypnotherapist and founder of the Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy and also Sacred Mystery Hypnotherapy for Spiritual Healing. So welcome to the show, Craig.
Oh, thank you, Tina. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're talking a little bit off before we hit the record button, and I think it's going to be a great conversation. Get a little bit of talk a bit about hypnotherapy and the subconscious mind, but maybe go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, and also I want to add that he is also the author of the Past Lives Guidebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when did the book come out?
Just came out a few months ago. Find it on Amazon, of course. And it's more about the science and even maybe the history of past life regression. It's the subtitle is Discover the Healing Power of Past Life Regression. And it's takes a broad look at the various aspects of what's going on in the brain, about memory, about consciousness, the different theories on how a non-local consciousness could work in terms of consciousness is not held within the brain. Memory is not held within the brain, but the brain acts more as a receiver and transmitter of information to, maybe 0 point field, that energy field that binds the universe together. So it's again, it's a pretty expansive book, but focusing a lot on these unique traits that we have as humans, whether people who can remote view or the spontaneous savant syndrome, where people get traumatic brain injury, car accident, or a kid getting hit in the head with a baseball, and they wake up with a new skill, fluent in a foreign language, virtuoso in a musical instrument. And how is that possible if we thought you had to spend years learning how to play the violin? So it's a book focusing more on how this works, why it may work, and where do we go from here?
Yeah, even people with near-death experiences come back with skills,
Yeah,
additional skills. Usually they become more psychic.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, a great book by Anita Moorjani of what do you think of
yeah,
this? I
I
don't
know
remember
that
the
book.
name. Dying to Be Me,
Mhm.
and that was an extraordinary book of having this experience and then coming back, dying in the hospital of cancer, and then coming back healed.
Mhm.
It's just, and what's fascinating about her story is it's documented by the medical community. She was in the hospital when she died. She died specifically because of this issue with the cancer. She came back alive and the cancer was gone. It's not that she made it up and that happened in the forest with nobody around. It was documented. And so there's these other cases again, like spontaneous savant syndrome or remote viewing. Government spent millions of dollars in decades, and they're probably still doing it. They say they shut it down, but the whole Stargate uh, programs and that started off in Stanford of remote viewing with the CIA, because the Russians, or not the Russians, but Soviet Union, was looking into weaponizing ESP, and figured the United States had better get on that too, and had extraordinary success. Not all the time, but had extraordinary success with that, and that went on for decades. They wouldn't have done it if they would have shut that down if it didn't work.
Yeah,
So it's
I don't
pretty
think they
extraordinary
ever
what we can do.
stopped.
No, I think they just closed one office and moved across the hallway and opened up
Yeah,
another office and called it something else.
totally.
If it works, why would you shut it down?
There's so much that they don't tell us, and
Mm-hmm.
um, that will go into another rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why past life regression is important for healing.
Yeah. Well, it's the idea, and I get a lot of my understanding, a lot of my training, a lot of the protocols I use when I work with somebody in past life regression. It comes from Michael Newton, and well, now the Michael Newton Institute. He's passed away. But the idea that we're here to learn and to grow, and to do that, we come multiple times. It's not unlike, let's say we have to learn, we want to learn math. Well, we're going to start off in the first grade learning 2 + 2 = 4. And then we're going to go to second grade, and we're going to learn more about division and multiplication. And then the third grade, we're going to learn about fractions. You know, you keep expanding until you finally get your master's degree in university in mathematics with those crazy equations like in Good Will Hunting and whatever. And so if you could look at each grade, first grade, second grade, third grade, as a different life, it's like, okay, well, it's going to take multiple lifetimes to maybe learn various aspects of who we need to be as spirits, as souls, maybe unconditional love, maybe compassion, maybe empathy, maybe something else. And so we come back, and maybe there are threads like that. Maybe we take one life just to learn one thing. Maybe it takes multiple lives to learn something. There's a interesting theory that people who have extraordinary talent take multiple lives to get to that talent. Because everybody can play guitar. I mean, we can all strum a guitar, maybe even come up with some sort of chord. We can all take a bow and string it, pull it across the strings of a cello. But I'm not Yo-Yo Ma. I can't play like him. And, I can't play guitar like whoever, Eric Clapton or Jimmy Page or whoever the new people are. Look at Bruce Lee. The idea that he just didn't have that talent of martial arts when he was born. It took him multiple lifetimes. And that first lifetime, he kind of sucked at it. Same with Yo-Yo Ma. He started playing violin at the age of 4 and was pretty good at it. And so how do you get to that level of talent at the age of 4? Well, one theory is maybe it took him multiple lifetimes. Meryl Streep acting. Maybe she was also acting on the Shakespearean stage, which I don't think it's pretty extraordinary to think about that we are here specifically to learn and to grow. And it gets a little mind twisty, because if we're here to learn and grow, another aspect of the work of Michael Newton and his books, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, is we may be choosing aspects of our lives to create that learning and that growth, which again is a little mind twisty, especially if you've gone through some trauma, you've gone through some hurt and some pain. And it's not to excuse it. It's not to say it should have happened. People need to be in jail. There needs to be protective orders against people. But it kind of gives you another way of looking at it. It's like, well, I went through this hurt. I went through this trauma. I went through this pain. What can I learn from it? And are there threads that I've experienced this before? Are we continually learning and growing, or do we need to repeat? Like if you don't do well in math in the 5th grade, do you have to repeat that class? Do you have to go to summer school? You have to try it again. And so, just like in college, you don't do well in that chemistry class, you're taking that chemistry class again until you pass it. So the idea of healing is very important, because that would be an aspect of learning and growing, is to release and let go. And so the important part of in the work I do, and we can do this work for discovery and insights, that's important too, and it's fun. But always, even if I just want to know if I have had past lives as a cello player or as a martial artist or as a dancer or as a actor or actress, we can look at that kind of, do that kind of work and discover those past lives. But we always make sure there's healing involved if necessary. Maybe there's not, but always ask, because what a great way to finally let go and pull those cords out that may be connecting you. And so I don't even think I've answered your question yet, but one way I like to describe it to people is as if you're in a group of souls, your soul group, your soul family, your soul mates, and it's not unlike a theater troupe. Like in your town, in your city where you live, you have the local theater troupe of 8, 9, 10 actors. And every year they're going to do about 6 different plays. And they've decided, okay, in January, we're going to do this play. And here's who's going to play what role. And here's what costumes you're going to wear. And here's how these characters are going to learn and grow during this play, and here's what the audience is going to be able to get from this. And you do that play till the very end, and then you take a break, and then you do another play, but there you now have a different role. And maybe the person, you and I, Tina, are in this plays together. Maybe one time you and I are husband and wife, the next time we're best friends, and then we're employer, and then teacher student, and we're switching genders, and we're switching costumes, and we're switching times. But let's say in that first play in January, I get really dramatic, and I get really actory, and I in a bold move, a dramatic move, I jump off the couch, and I twist my ankle, like really twist my ankle. Well, now I got to be on crutches for the rest of that play. Well, the play ends and we have a rest, but we need to do the next play in March. And so we do the play in March, but my ankle isn't healed yet. And now I got to be in crutches in that next play. Well, it has nothing to do with that play, me having a sprained ankle and being on crutches. But I brought it from that last play, And so that's not the greatest analogy in the world, but you see how like maybe we're bringing things to this next life. And if you can heal that, how much better will that play be for me if I can get off those crutches and my ankle heals, And so if there is some hurt and pain, if there's some anger or some resentment or regret, issues around love or abundance or something, if that's come from a different life and you're holding on to it for whatever reason, you can find healing around that. And that's most important to me. One of, just real quick, he says in minute 10 of his answer of a really short question, one of why this is so important to me is because when I was doing my training, and I trained at the Hypnotherapy Academy of America, and this is a real school you go to, you sit in classes with 25, 30 other people, and you learn about the scientific validity of hypnotherapy, how to work with people. And you see an example, a demonstration up in front of the class, and you break up into small groups and you work with each other. Well, the reason I chose this specific school for my training is because, one, it's so expansive. It's 500 hours. So it's over 2.5 months, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. Excuse me, Monday through Friday. And the last 2 weeks, the last 100 hours, is past life regression. And so I really wanted to focus on that. After this foundation of clinical hypnotherapy, move into the more deeper realms of the esoteric and find how to heal people in that way. Well, one of the stories that Tim Zimmerman was telling was that when he was learning how to do this way back in the early 90s, and this school's been around about 35 years or so, he was talking to friends like, yeah, I'm learning hypnotherapy. I'm going to be doing past life regression. And this guy said, oh, yeah, my ex-wife did past life regression. And she did just for fun, just for a fun day out. Wanted to do a past life, see where she's been. And she found, explored a life where like in the Middle Ages, medieval times. And she was kind of the community rabble rouser, if you will, against the authority figures and trying to create, rise up the community. And, she had a loud mouth, and the authority figures did not like that. So they threw her in jail as an example and tortured her to death, starved her to death. And she realized during that past life regression, which of course is going to be super intense, that the jailer who is torturing her and starving her to death is her husband in this current life. And they got divorced like a month later. And because there's no healing there, there's no resolution to that. It's sort of like finding out in the play in March that, oh, wait a minute, you were that evil person in the play before. It's like, yeah, but I'm a different character now. I'm still the same soul. But she didn't get that resolution. She didn't get that healing from that. And it literally destroyed their relationship, destroyed lives. And there's a divorce decree somewhere in the Santa Fe County Records Department that mentions past life regression as one of the reasons. I'm sure there's other reasons. That relationship would maybe have been on the rocks, and that was the final straw, because again, there was no healing. So that always stuck with me, that the most important part of this work is the healing you can get from it.
Don't you think that they chose to be with each other again to heal that, though? That could have
Yeah.
possibly been a goal?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because again, in the work of Michael Newton, and just real quick to explain who Michael Newton is, he passed away in 2011. But in 1969, he's a psychotherapist and a doctor, an MD, a psychiatrist, and he was working with somebody and using hypnotherapy, wanted to regress them to childhood to deal with some childhood trauma, which he thought would help release the anguish this person was going through. And so he regressed them using hypnotherapy back to childhood to deal with this issue. But the guy kept going and he didn't stop. And he went all the way past childhood, past being in utero, and all the way back to spirit world, which Michael Newton calls life between lives. And so I spent some time in the spirit world and healed the issue from spirit world or the soul realm or whatever you want to call it. And this intrigued Michael Newton. He thought that was utterly fascinating. So he started working with people to see if he could do it again. Like, how can you get people specifically on purpose back to life between lives, that state of not being human in human body, but just being the soul? And he developed this protocol on how to do that. And as he was working with people in the early 70s, he discovered people were having similar experiences of life between lives, of who you meet there, who you hang out with, if you will, how you heal up there, the places you go in soul world. People are having similar experiences, even they're different ages, different cultures, ethnicities, different parts of the country. There's no internet, there's no cell phones. These people aren't communicating with each other. And yet they're having similar experiences. And so he spent all the 70s, all the 80s researching this. Thousands and thousands of people who are having these similar experiences. He's doing 3-4 hour sessions with these people, asking questions of what it is to be in the soul world, in this life between lives, and comes out with Journey of Souls in 1992. He then spends another decade asking questions, researching, and in 2001, 2002, somewhere around there, released Destiny of Souls, a part 2. And to this day, they're still releasing books. They released a book a few years ago. And so they're still doing the research. This is 55 years of not just, it's not somebody who's channeling this information, not somebody who just work with 3 or 4 people. This isn't just one person's story. This is thousands of people over decades are having similar experiences. And so in terms of life between lives, it's this state where we can create healing. We can decide also what this current life will be. And that's, again, a bit of a head scratcher and maybe a brain twister to think that, well, why would I create this life? Especially if there's hurt, if there's pain, if there's been trauma. It's a bit of a mind melt to think, it's like, well, was I handed a script and just say, well, you're playing this role? Or did I choose to have this experience for learning, for growth, and for healing? And so, yeah, those 2 people, they're probably that got divorced. Yeah, they're probably in the same soul group. They may even be primary soulmates. They may have that medieval one, like, yeah, that didn't work out too well, did it? Let's try it again. Fail, chunk chunk with the stamp, fail, try it again. You repeat that grade. And they tried it again. Nope, that didn't work, did it? Chunk chunk, fail. Okay, they might have to do it again. And what's interesting, they may not be going linearly, like, okay, well, next time is going to be in 3692. They tried the medieval times. They tried here in the 2000s. Well, maybe next time they'll go to 1850 and try it there. Maybe next time they'll go to 3 BC. There's no reason why this has to happen in some sort of linear fashion, like we sense time moving here on Earth. So definitely, just because we're here to learn and to grow doesn't mean you make it work in one lifetime. It may take multiple lifetimes for them to figure out what that thing is they're doing together. So, okay, and then it's sort of like, it's like the Apollo 13. If anybody's ever saw that movie or a documentary about Apollo 13, the space flight that went terribly wrong, it's like you're trying to figure out how to make this work. And it's like, okay, well, it may take a couple of lifetimes to try to put all this together and figure out how this situation, let's try different scenarios and how this can work. And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't work that way. Let's try it this way. Well, it didn't work that way either. Let's try it this, And so that could be one aspect of it.
Yeah, I find that because I've been regressed many times. I was telling Craig before, and sometimes it's always useful information. The
Mm-hmm.
lives that come up for a reason, either just maybe you need to know about them, and it can explain just issues that you have in this lifetime that cannot be explained, like phobias, fears. I mean, I think it's interesting you talked about acting on the stage because it reminded me of I did have a past life as an actor. And I was exploring why I don't like to speak in front of groups.
Mm.
And in this particular lifetime, the audience was terrible.
Mm.
They they threw, if they didn't like you, they booed
Yeah.
you, they threw stuff at you. And that was part of the reason why I don't like to speak in front of groups, because of that particular lifetime. So you could have this fear, and I had this fear of speaking, and it explains why I have that fear. And I think that information is comforting to know, instead
Oh, yeah.
of walking through life going, well, I have no idea why I have this fear. I just do. And that feels very self-defeating.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you do the past life regression, you can find out why.
Yeah. 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 And not only find out why, but heal that specific aspect. And again, that's why I find, for me, walking into working with anybody with past life regression, or just clinical hypnotherapy, working with I have a friend who, he read my book, he likes my book and everything, but he's like, yeah, no, I'm not into this whole past life thing. I got enough problems in this life. But it's like, if there's no healing around that, then you're still going to be afraid of getting on stage and speaking.
Mhm.
And so that's why it's so important for me, going into any session with anybody, whatever and maybe just for exploratory reasons, and just to discover, just for fun, and that's totally legitimate. That's totally worthy. Other people, yeah, they may have a issue with being on stage or deep ocean water, even though they live in the mountains of Arizona, or some other issue, anger or regret, and they are seeking specifically healing around that. But if you walk away without that healing, may mess up a relationship. It may keep you still from sharing your message with a lot of people, and so the healing is so important to this. And that's why doing this kind of work as the participant, because there's also the way of exploring past lives where somebody kind of tells you your past lives, or they're like kind of a psychic or a medium. They're kind of channeling the information. They're like telling you. And so I would, they go into their state to read your records, the books of your lives, and they tell you, oh, well, you were back in, an actor, and you had horrible experiences with audiences who were just mean, and then you had this other life way back in the 600s, and they tell you that, and it's fascinating, it's interesting, but you don't get that yourself. It's so fascinating, so extraordinarily amazing to have the experience yourself. And it doesn't mean necessarily you see it, or maybe you'll visualize it, maybe you'll experience it as if you're really there, maybe you'll just have vague images, maybe you'll just kind of download the information. But however you experience it, it's your experience, and you get to relive the memories. And that's what it is. It's not that you go back to a past life and you're there, and if something happens, a hypnotist has a heart attack, you're going to get stuck in this past life or something. It's not like that. It's just like having a memory. And so if I was just to ask people, and don't do this if you're driving or anything, but if you're just to close your eyes and tell me about a lunch you had last week. It's like, oh, well, I went to a cafe with my friend, this one place that just opened up down the street. And I was like, oh, it's really great that he told me about the decor and where you sat and the appetizers and the drinks you had and the lunch you had. And well, it's not that you're there. It's not you're going to get stuck back in that cafe having that lunch over and over and over again. It's like, no, you're just having a memory. And then I ask you, well, what about high school? Tell me something about high school. Tell me about high school prom. Or did you do sports? Did you do theater? Did you do band? Did you smoke cigarettes out behind the gym after school? What did you tell me something about high school? Well, again, you're not going to get stuck in high school. You're just having a memory of high school. And maybe it'll be a very vivid memory of the clothes you wore to prom, the music that was playing, what was the theme, who was prom queen, prom king. You have that experience, that memory, and you feel like what the clothes felt like on your back. Where did you go to dinner? Did you have a limo? All that kind of stuff. And then, well, what's your earliest memory? It's like, oh, well, when I was a kid, I was 5 years old. I have people tell me about 2 years old or 1 year old. And so again, it's just a memory. You're just accessing a memory. All we do in past life regression, we just go a little bit further. We go to the deep end of the pool. So we're swimming the same pool. It's the same pool. We're just in the shallow end, remembering high school, remembering an earlier memory from childhood. All we're going to do is go to the deep end and start remembering a little bit further and remembering other lives, focusing the mind on go back to the past life that is most influencing this current life. Go back to the past life where I have this fear of being in front of people. Go back to past life where that is a karmic cause of this fear of deep water or drowning or something. Or the karmic cause of all this anger I'm dealing with. And so you kind of pinpoint the focus for that target, sort of like putting the channel on your TV. We just turn on the TV or the radio. Okay, it is what it is. But if you know what you're looking for, you know what channel to turn it to or where to turn the dial. And the same with this. If you focus your subconscious mind, that super conscious level of mind, your higher self, you can retrieve the information you're looking for.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. And I feel like the most powerful part of experiencing that memory through the regression is that you feel the feelings of that memory.
Yeah.
Which I was telling Craig before we pressed record, you can't fake feelings. I mean, maybe if you're an Oscar-winning actress, but most of us are not like that, right?
Yeah. Right.
You don't go around going, I'm going to feel really scared of this when you're not. You're just not going to feel it.
Yeah.
So how do past life regression, how can that help with ancestral trauma and patterns? Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, and that's very interesting. It's similar work. It's healing adjacent, maybe. It's not quite past life regression because in terms of past life regression, you're looking at a specific life that you have lived to gain insights or just discover or create healing around for yourself. In terms of ancestral healing, that's a little bit different. In terms of you may have been called here to Earth to be the grounding point for healing that needs to be done along one of your lines. And if you think about it, how far back you can go, just think of your grandparents. You have 4 grandparents, whether you've met them or not. You have 4 grandparents. And so the idea is you choose one, whether it's your mother's father, your mother's mother, your father's father, your father's mother. You choose one and you look down that line and create healing. Again, this I'm doing a very basic description of this, but by connecting with your guides to help support in this, you can create healing. Now, I've done work along this line in this way for myself in my own ancestral healing lines. I mean, Craig Meriwether, you don't get more colonialist than that here in America. My family came over here in 1650. We literally built the country and all that entailed, and plantations in Virginia and in the South. And my dad was big time into genealogy, even way back in the early 50s, and early 60s, he started. And so, and there's even this kind of social club of Meriwethers who just investigate and pull their resources and their money. Now it's easy with the internet, but back in the 70s and 80s, you had to go to record offices and write letters and go to the big genealogy library in Salt Lake City and all that. And yeah, we did a lot of damage, the last few hundred years, if even before. And I felt that calling to be a part of that healing. Maybe part of why I'm here is to be the grounding point to help erase some of that hurt and pain. And it wasn't like I was the be all end all person on top of the mountain creating healing for the universe. I was more of a part of it. Now, this was my experience. Other people have different experiences around this and the work they need to do and have been called to do. I was more of, this is the guy that's going to be the grounding point here on Earth to then allow the healing of our ancestors down the line and start to heal the hurt and pain we have caused to others. And so I was a part of it, not the kind of star of the show so much, if you will, but just one of the points of light and one of the energy points to help it happen. And it can be very extraordinary way to give back, not just your ancestral line, because you want, even if maybe you didn't know your grandparents or your great grandparents, maybe they were not the nicest of people. I'm reading through the genealogy stuff and the census reports of all the slaves my families have owned over the years. It's like, they're probably not nice people, but they are souls up in soul world now who came down here to play a part. And yeah, that was a villainous part they played for whatever reason. And maybe for their own growth, maybe for their own learning. And hopefully next time, they'll come back as a nicer person who can do nicer things. But it's that energy healing that needs to happen along the line.
So how do you go about healing that? Like, how did you go about trying to heal that with regression?
I didn't specifically heal it with regression. I connected with guides who did the work. And again, I felt, and this is my experience of it, and other people have had other experiences. And if you read Ancestral Medicine by Daniel Foor, Foor, Amazon, probably bookstores, that kind of thing. They go in depth about that kind of work. My experience was just, I was the lightning rod of boots on the ground kind of thing. And as I did my trance work, connecting with my guides, the guides were the one that, and connecting with my ancestors, specifically one ancestor that lived in the 1600s that I connected with. It was kind of like we were the two lightning rods, the two goalposts, I guess. And all that in between is what needed to be healed. And it, takes a village kind of thing, where it wasn't just me healing my entire, ancestral line. It's like, well, no, I connected with an ancestor through my trance work and the help of my guides way back when. Okay, let's be the energy posts, and whether it was other ancestors and other spirit guides, let's clean this up and hopefully make it better for some people down the line.
Yeah, I love this. Like, I could do episode after episode of ancestral healing because there's so many different ways to go about it. What I've found intuitively, because I'm a Reiki teacher and I do shamanic healing, is if there's like a problem in the family that there's a pattern, right? Like, say there's a pattern of mental illness. And you know what it is. You may not know what it is, but if you can pinpoint what it is, you can work with, I guess I always work with my guides. I don't always give them credit, but obviously they're there all the time. But I asked to meet with the ancestor where that problem started.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
root of ancestor who had that first mental illness. I ask that I meet with them, and then I meet with them and I find out how they're doing, obviously, because if they're still in distress, they may have not completely crossed over into the light. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a big problem for the entire family.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure, like, how are they doing? Have they crossed over, helping them cross over, and then hearing their story. Again, there's something about hearing what happened to them that's very healing for them, and it's healing for you and everybody in the entire family. And then you can ask them to help you heal it.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get your cooperation and your support to heal this problem in the family?
Yeah. Yeah. It's extraordinary the word that how helpful you can be in that. And you can be, I don't know why I keep coming with the lightning rod, but that energy grounding here on earth, which maybe that's necessary for some reason somehow.
Yes.
Certainly we can't even comprehend what this is all about. We get glimpses here and there, but it's sort of like the story of the blind men with the elephant, and somebody has a snake, somebody has a tree trunk, somebody has a piece of rope. Yeah, we don't get the entire elephant. We're just getting bits and pieces, but we can be of help. And sometimes, yeah, it's even just asking, what is it that you need? How can I help you? Tell me your story, because talk therapy is extraordinarily helpful. It may not be the be all end all for everything and everybody, but just telling somebody, either, venting to a friend as you walk in the park, can be extraordinarily helpful and healing, and letting go and having somebody listen to you. And especially by having that connection of being an ancestor, being your great 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 grandmother or great great grandfather, or even further down the line. I'm lucky enough to have the names all the way back to the 1500s because of 60 years worth of work that the Meriwether's social genealogy club has done. And it's pretty extraordinary. They put their money together and have researchers go to tiny little record shops in England and Scotland and stuff and look around. But not everybody has that. They may just know their grandparents and that's it. They may be adopted and records sealed or records lost. And you can still have that connection. Just because the records don't show specifically who your grandparents are or great great grandparents are, or even, again, if you're adopted, maybe you don't know who your parents or biological parents are. You can still, by connecting, as you just mentioned, the way you just mentioned it, Tina, you can have this connection with them. Ask them their names, and have that connection with them, and be safe about it. Connect with your guides, and this is where the work comes in. This isn't just a nice fun afternoon because the internet went out. It's like, okay, well, I guess maybe I'll connect with my guides and heal my ancestral line. This is work. And that's why resource like yourself, Tina, or working with a guide like myself, or at least starting off with a book like Ancestral Medicine by Daniel Florgan, Foor, that it's so important to do his work, or go to his website, ancestralmedicine.org.net, something like that, and take the classes that he has online and start the process. But he has a class on there, but it's like 3-4 months long, something, but you're doing the work, or there's a list of people you can work with who can help you. And again, even if you may be adopted and not know, that's all right. You have that, you still have that soul connection. You have that, they're part of your soul group. And you can connect, and again, wanting to do it in a safe way, certainly maybe with a guide or a facilitator here on earth, but also connecting with your spirit guides to keep it safe, making sure you're connecting with the right people in a safe way. Because if they're, like you were saying, maybe there's some issues there that maybe have not been resolved. You want to make sure you keep yourself safe fire, the firemen, they wear the big protective gear for a reason. And so, make sure you're safe. And again, that's where the research comes in. That's where the work comes in. That's where,
Right.
taking the classes or reading the books or working with somebody who's been trained in this way is super important.
Yeah, I think I know I'm here. One of the reasons why I'm here is to help heal the family lines. And I'll share a personal story about that,
Mhm.
why that got validated to me. So I've seen the patterns in my family. I've seen we've
Mhm.
got a lot
Yeah.
of issues, and I've done the genealogy work too. Like I've traced my family line on my dad's side to the 1600s.
Nice. Wonderful. Yeah.
So in
That's,
fact, and when you hit on that rich ancestor, it's like the lottery, because those families, they've done all the research, and
yep.
it's actually all online. You can
Mhm.
just look up, So I've traced it all the way back to, the Irish kings, and like very close to the Queen Elizabeth's family. Like I wasn't a direct line, but I was
Mhm.
always the descendant of someone close to the king.
Oh,
Like
yeah. Yeah.
his inner circle that they would go fight battles with. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. But my mother passed away in December, and I have a very gifted friend who called me up out of the blue. I don't talk to her that much, but she's like, "Mom, your mom is coming through and she has all these things to say to you." And I told her that she should just talk directly to me. She
Mhm.
could just talk directly to me, which I do talk to her. And she said, one of the things she said is, your mom really wants you to know that she really is grateful that you've done all this work on the family
Wow.
ancestral lines. And this is not anything my mom would have said in the
Yeah.
physical,
Yeah.
okay? But she said that, and that was the only time I cried
Yeah.
over her passing, because I feel like you do a lot of this work and it's rewarding, and you know how huge it is, Craig. Like
Yeah.
this is huge. This is like rippling toward the future, into the past, and you don't even know the changes that you're making. But to have that validation from the other side, from my own mother, who didn't even believe any of this stuff. She didn't even believe in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And for her to come through and say that was like really, really validating.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you can wrap your head around it, and sometimes this is hard because parents may not be, the parent you wanted. It may have been abuse, or they allowed abuse to happen, or trauma to happen. And if you can wrap your head around, again, it's mind twisty, and it's sometimes hard to grasp, but realize that's a role they're playing. And just like the play you see on stage, that's an actor playing that villainous jerk on stage. Off stage, they're probably super duper nice, and you want to go have lunch with them and be their friend. But they get on stage and they have to play this role. They've chosen to play this role, and they've committed to playing this role for a certain amount of time, because that's going to move the story forward.
Mhm.
You can't oftentimes have a great story without the villain, without the drama and the tragedy, because that's where the learning and growth happens. But understand that off stage, when they take off the costume and they're just themselves, they're probably super nice. They're super wonderful, and they'll go out of their way to help you. It's like, well, the same here. Just like expand that to all the world's a stage. And we come here and we play our roles. And we may have committed ourselves to playing a role that's not so nice this time. And again, it's hard. It doesn't mean people don't belong in jail, doesn't mean people don't need protective orders and all that. But if you see that maybe behind those angry eyes, there's a soul there that's playing, or maybe a soul that's hurting, but there's a soul there that once this role ends, and this life ends, they're going to return to that state of spirit. And they're going to be that kind of nice person off stage. And again, it's mind twisty.
Yeah,
And
I feel like
can
when
melt your brain.
someone plays that villain or that bad parent, they're really teaching you how not to be, and that's your choice.
Yeah.
If you want to be like them, or do you want to repeat the pattern, or do you want to break it?
Yeah.
And that's always a choice. And I think oftentimes when we have the villain, they're our greatest teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they really push in your face,
Mm-hmm.
Some unpleasant stuff that, we came here to face. Frankly, we didn't come here. I didn't come here to, I don't know, watch Netflix. Like, I'm here to, which I do, but I want to do the real work. So
yeah. And when I'm working with people and we're doing the maybe kind of the longer sessions where you have more time to ask questions, we'll get the spirit world. That's always super important because that's where the healing happens. And so maybe you want to look at one specific past life in great detail. Maybe you just I want to see a thread. Is there a thread between lives, or just want to explore? I don't know. I want to see several lives, but whatever you want to do. And we'll work with that aspect of the past life memories. But there's going to be a time when we're going to move up to spirit world and experience life between lives, because again, that's where the healing happens. And maybe you did a past life regression where you just want to see several lives with your primary soulmate. And have you had other lives with your primary soulmate or your significant other, your life partner in this life? Have you been life partners in other lives? Have you switched roles, gender role? That can be very exciting, very fun. But by going up to spirit world, you can find healing maybe you didn't know you needed to have. And so we'll always go to the healing space, the healing room. And whether the healing happens and people experience it in different ways, maybe there's an energy healing, a spiritual energy healing, or maybe with light, or maybe with water. And yeah, I know there's probably not water in spirit world, but the brain is creating the symbolism or the analogy, the metaphor, to understand with this 3D world of ours, kind of 5D information, if you will. And so, yeah, it may show up as a actual room or maybe a place in nature with a healing stream or waterfall or something. But that's where the healing happens. But we also go to the current life selection room. And I'm just using terms that Michael Newton uses in his books, and ask those questions. Why is your mother the way she is? And what do you get to learn about it? Who do you need to be because your mother is the way she is? Who do you have to be? What do you need to learn because your father is the way he is? Your siblings, if you have friends who may have had since the first grade, but also what can you gain what can you learn about your purpose, your mission, your ultimate goals here in life? What you're here to learn. Now, some of that information may be blocked because of the learning you're here to do. And you're not supposed to know because that'll affect the choices you make. And so it's sort of this idea, I was talking with somebody, forget what movie he was talking about. I think it was a Disney movie, Hercules, I think he was saying. I haven't seen it, but he said something like there's these, when they're talking about time and connecting time, there's these threads. And some threads can be manipulated and changed around, but there are golden threads that connect lives to lives that you cannot break, and these things will need to happen. And that explains a lot of even issues around law of attraction. I know this is a huge tangent here, but the idea around law of attraction, that if you do these certain things in a certain way and create this feeling state while holding the image in your mind and all this stuff, this will happen. And there's people you could just wow, they just manifest whatever they want and their life is filled with abundance. Well, what if you've chosen a life of non-abundance? for learning and growth. That law of attraction switch is going to be turned off, isn't it? And maybe it's the frustration of the part of the learning is like, well, I can't seem to attract what I want. I can't attract that relationship. I can't attract that job, that career, that bank account. Even though I'm doing exactly what Mike Dooley says to do. I'm doing exactly what The Secret says to do. I'm doing exactly what they all say to do. And I'm doing it right, but these things are not showing up. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe there's some sort of spiritual block, maybe some sort of emotional block, but maybe there's some sort of soul contract or soul agreement that was made to say, yeah, I need to stay at this certain level and understand that loss or that longing or that wanting. And that's part of my learning and growth. And so there's these aspects of life that, even though the quote unquote rules of it, the laws of attraction, the laws of repulsion seem to work for some people, maybe they don't work for all people because of what we've agreed to this time around.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's a lot more complex than just writing in your journal every day and imagining this happening. And
Yeah.
so we're kind of coming up to the
Yeah.
end of the episode. Craig, can you share how people can contact you and can get your book on Amazon, correct?
Book on Amazon, Past Lives Guidebook. And the best way to find me is Sacred Mystery Hypnotherapy.com. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. So if you just Google search Flagstaff Hypnosis, you'll see Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy. I seem to try to make my business names as complicated as possible and hard to spell and hard to remember. So I thought, I'll just do hypnotherapy in Flagstaff and maybe Phoenix. And then with the advent of the issues of COVID, we started doing online sessions. We started doing Zoom sessions, and people like them so much that it's pretty much I just all do Zoom sessions now, including past life regression or ancestral healing work or spirit work, spiritual guide work. And so it works well over Zoom because you feel relaxed and comfortable in your homes.
How long do the sessions last?
Depends on what you want to do, but like for past life regression, we could do 90 minutes. We could do 3.5 hours. Depends on what you want to do and what you're comfortable with. 3.5 hours seems like a long time, and in and of itself, I guess it is. When a talk therapy session's 45 minutes or 50 minutes, but 3.5 hours, it goes by in a snap because it's so fascinating, it's so interesting. Basically, if you've never done this work before, we'll do a little bit of warm-up exercise. We'll talk a little bit. We'll have talked on the phone and we'll have emailed back and forth. Since you lost some information, but we'll talk a little bit about what you want to work on more in depth to make sure we kind of nail it down. Talk a little bit about what's going to happen in the brain and why this works and the science. That's about a half an hour warm-up exercise and a little bit of the just pre-talk and focusing on making sure I understand what you want to work on and the questions you want answered, people you want looked at. And then, so basically about 2.5, 3 hours is the past life regression and soul world. So you can see, especially if you want to look at just one life, the kind of detail you're going to get. Now we can't, of course, if you live for 90 years in that past life, we can't look at all 90 years. But what we're going to look at is 4 or 5 significant, important events in that life that have to do with the issue you want to discover or the insights you want to discover, the healing you want. And so we'll open up into that past life, kind of gather where you are, kind of ground yourself in that memory. And then I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to count from 1 up to 3. And on 3, you're going to move to the next significant event, whether you're younger, older, the same age. 1, 2, 3, go. And they go, okay, well, now I'm here, there, somewhere else. Same town, same city, or maybe across the world, a different age. And so, I've had people start off at the age of 25, go to 12, go to 40, go back to 18, go to 19. I've had people, of course, do it chronologically. I started at 12, then I'm 25, and then I'm 40. But I've also had one person just do it all within 3 days. their whole past life experience. Because he's thinking like, okay, well, I'm going to be a kid. I'm going to be college years. I'm going to be in my 40s. I'm going to be an old person. But this person, they did it all within 3 days because of the World War II situation. And what they needed to heal involved those 3 days. And so all kind of 5 jumps in that life were just within hours of each other. Okay, I want you to go to the next significant event in that life. Okay, well, I forget the specifics, but it's like I'm on Normandy Beach, running onto the beach. Okay, I want you to go to the next significant event. Okay, well, it seems to be the afternoon now. Okay, well, it's the
So
same day.
is this someone who actually fought in World War II, or it was another lifetime?
Another lifetime, past life.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting too. I've had people like, a couple months ago do a past life, and it's 1970s. That's it. I was born in 1967. It's like, well, that's kind of a head scratcher. Well, not really if you're focusing on time being linear. Like, well, if I was born in 1967, I can't have a past life that happened in 1970. Why not? It's just a role. The entirety of the plays you do next year could all be done in the 1960s. The theme's going to be the 1960s. So each life is done in the 1960s. I mean, I have an aspect in the book where I talk about, and I haven't experienced this with anybody, but wouldn't it be a great learning experience if you had different perspectives of World War II? Not only a soldier on Normandy Beach, but a German concentration camp guard, and a Polish, a Jewish person in Poland, and a mom running with her baby to the underground in Britain during the Blitz, and being a Japanese American in a concentration camp after Pearl Harbor. Being a Japanese pilot during Pearl. Wouldn't having all those experiences create an extraordinarily learning environment? And so it's like, well, why not go back to the same time period over and over again? Experience different things. As they say, even Einstein and Niels Bohr and all them back in the 30s are saying there is no time. We sense time because we go from a day-old baby to being a 103-year-old, and we can see time moving. We see the seasons changing in the calendar. We turn the calendar, but in terms of real time, it's all happening now, past, and future. So, why wouldn't, like a Groundhog's Day kind of thing, the movie Groundhog's Day, why not live the same time again and again for that learning and growth? Maybe you didn't do well. You have to repeat the 5th grade, all right, you got to repeat the 1970s again. That didn't work out for you too well.
Well, I gotten a lot out of my own regressions and memories, and I highly recommend, if you have not tried it, to try it, especially if there's something you've been trying to heal within yourself or in your family line. It's really amazing information, and it's comforting to hear it, no matter how stressful the situations you find yourself in. It's still healing in that. And so, again, it's Craig Meriwether. He is the author of the Past Lives Guidebook, and you can find him online, and you're doing it on Zoom, so you don't even have to travel anywhere.
Yeah, it works right. And just to kind of show you the power of this, I'm not to brag, I mean, maybe brag a little bit, but right now I'm working with a professional basketball player in Lithuania. He's an American in the European League, but he's in Lithuania. I got another professional basketball player in France. The guy from France got my name from his friend who lives in Puerto Rico. It's like, it just shows you the expansive. And not only can I work with people around the country, but literally around the world. I work with somebody who is in Tahiti. You got a great internet connection. This works because in and of itself, I'm not fixing you. This isn't Reiki. That's some hard work you got to do there, or a massage therapist or something. But that's not this work of hypnotherapy. I'm not here to fix you. And hypnotherapy in of itself is like that you're going to fix yourself, and you're going to have this experience, and you're going to access these memories and create this healing yourself. So be comfortable in your own home, or in a beautiful hotel room by the beach, or wherever you want to be.
Yeah, well, even with Reiki, you have to be open to it, and you
Mhm.
still have to do work on yourself.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Always. So we're not going to do the work for you. We will point you in the right direction,
Yeah,
or reveal information that you need to know to take the next step. But, you know, you still have to do the work.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to be present, and your intention has to be pure in terms of what you're looking for. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, thanks so much,
yeah.
Craig.
Tina, it was so much fun. Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
fun
for being
conversation.
here. And I love talking about this. I'm a big believer in it. And I've been, partaking in this for at least 10, 15 years. So yeah, it's really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I when I had the schedule, I was like, oh, we'll just talk about hypnotherapy. So it was fun surprise to like be able to talk about this because this is such a fascinating conversation. So I appreciate you being open to it, and it was fun.
Yeah. Oh, I will go there. I always tell people, I was like, they're like, I'm not sure if I should mention that. I said, oh, mention it. I want you
Yeah,
to mention it and I want to talk about it.
beautiful. Yeah.